Everyone, let's go ahead and take a look at the iPhone XS and the iPhone 11 Pro and see how they hold up in 2022. Now, both these iPhones are very, very interesting. The 11 Pro is one of my favorite iPhones of all time. The iPhone XS is still a decent iPhone, but I would definitely recommend going for the 11 Pro if you have the money. And if you want to get these things for the cheapest prices I find on Amazon, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, they are almost identically the same phone. You probably can't even tell too many differences. The iPhone XS came out in 2018. It does have a 5.8-inch OLED display on the front, very good. Not a bad looking phone even nowadays, at least compared to the latest iPhones because they look almost the same. And this display still looks pretty good. I would definitely say it's a very, very good looking phone for the most part. The iPhone 11 Pro looks almost identically the same as that one. You do have that 5.8-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, whatever they called it. And this is still a really good panel too. In my opinion, this is easily one of the best phones I've ever owned. And in my opinion, this is still a very, very good phone. The XS I think is good too. But with the iPhone 11 Pro, Apple did a tremendous job with this device, and I still think it holds up extremely well in this day and age. Now, in terms of thinness and thickness, I kind of get the vibe that they're kind of the same thing. I don't really think there's that big of a difference. These both are the gold colors of both models, and they look beautiful. The 11 Pro probably more so, but the XS still looks pretty good for sure. Now on the back, they do have glass backs on both. I do have a skin on my iPhone XS, but both of them look good. I don't think one looks ugly, but the iPhone 11 Pro was the first one with this frosted glass back, and since then it's came on every single iPhone, and it feels beautiful. It feels extremely premium. The triple camera setup also on the back of the 11 Pro looks very, very prominent and looks very, very current. With the iPhone XS with that dual camera setup, it still looks fine, but definitely the iPhone 11 Pro is the way better option here in my opinion. It looks so much better. Both of them have wireless charging, both of them have IP certification, lightning ports at the bottom, almost the same kind of the same phone when you kind of look at them, but the 11 Pro is definitely better. You're getting a way better camera setup, way better, build quality, and definitely just I think a way better phone in general. But it's very interesting because the iPhone XS doesn't really seem like a bad phone either. Like these phones are very, very, interesting because they're kind of like the same thing. With the XS, what you're getting is a very good phone, and it's going to be supported with software for several more years. This device is not going to be outdated anytime soon, and that is definitely one of the best things about something like an iPhone XS. You can easily go ahead and pick up this phone and still have a very long-lasting device ahead of itself. I mean, this thing is going to be lasting for quite a bit of time, and like I mentioned, with something like the XS, it's still here. It's not here today and gone tomorrow. With the iPhone 11 Pro, it's almost in the same boat. This device is still going to be supported for many, many more years. It's not like the iPhone 11 Pro is going to be, just unsupported tomorrow. This device theoretically is going to be lasting probably longer than the iPhone XS. And I say probably because Apple does some things where they support the older one as long as the newer one. Take a look at the iPhone 5S and iPhone 6, for example. So it could be the same exact thing here too. I'm not 100% too sure. But if I had to say it, I would probably say the iPhone 11 Pro is going to last longer. But the build quality of the iPhone 11 Pro is one of my favorite things. I mean, the build quality of this thing alone makes the thing feels like it's going to last way longer than it should. So that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 11 Pro has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XS has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background. The iPhone 11 Pro is here. The XS is here. So let's get into it. Phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing. Let's go and do music, 3, 2, 1. And surprisingly, I think the iPhone, but they were on different panels, so I guess we'll just kind of let that one just kind of go away. App Store, 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 11 Pro was faster there. Scrolling through, let's see if there's a difference. And I don't really think there's going to be that big of a difference, but it's still good to see. Doesn't really look like it. We can do camera, 3, 2, 1. And about the same thing, not that big of a difference. Photos, 3, 2, 1. Kind of about the same thing too, not really that big of a difference. Hopping out of that one, let's go and get into something like stocks, which I don't even have, which I do have here, 3, 2, 1. Almost identically the same thing. There really wasn't that big of a difference there. Let's go and get into clock, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same. Let's do mail, 3, 2. Don't even have it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think 11 Pro is a little bit faster there. And honestly, let's do iTunes Store, 3, 2, 1, but it looks like they're identically the same. There's really not that big of a difference. Looks like the 11 Pro may have been a little bit faster, but they were on different panels. As always, we have a bunch of these third-party applications we can go and get into. Let's do BOFA, 3, 2, 1. And Actually, they were on different panels. I don't know what to make of that one. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, I've been having random issues with this game, as you can see. It crashed on this iPhone. I guess we can go and just kind of close out of this one too and close out of this one too. I love testing that game, but for some reason it's having a ton of issues on a ton of my devices. Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And potentially the iPhone XS could be faster here. This is very interesting. I don't know why this keeps happening like this. Okay, the 11 Pro seemed to be a little bit faster there, followed by the XS very, very shortly after. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into Facebook, 3, 2, 1. And about the same thing. Let's go and do stack, 3, 2, 1. Almost identically the same thing too. Let's get into some gameplay, see if there's a difference. I don't really think there's going to be that big of a difference, so let's hop out of this one. Let's do snake versus blocks, 3, 2, 1. And I think the 11 Pro was slightly faster there, but still very, very close. Let's do Netflix, 3, 2, 1. The 11 Pro was slightly faster. Snapchat, I do not have. Twitter, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think the XS was faster. Let's go ahead and do, honestly, that kind of covers that. Let's do Thank You, 3, 2, 1. And I think the XS was slightly faster there too, or the 11 Pro, sorry, was slightly faster there too. So I definitely do think when it comes down to both these devices, quite possibly the XS is probably, still a really good performing iPhone, as you guys can see. I think the 11 Pro is probably the faster one and probably the one I would recommend kind of more so people to buy. But you guys saw that the XS was still keeping up really well with the 11 Pro and it was beating it sometimes. So I don't think the XS is that far behind. I think the 11 Pro may be overall faster, but still very, very close between these two. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. Now the XS has that dual camera setup on the back, a wide and a telephoto lens. The 11 Pro has a wide telephoto and ultra-wide lenses, and they're much bigger sensors, as you guys can see. On top of that, 4K at 60 on the back of both of them, but you have 4K at 60 on the front of the 11 Pro. The XS only has 1080p. Now I think with something like the iPhone XS camera, it's still pretty good. You have the ability of zooming in a ton into a photo, which is really, really nice. And you don't have the ability of zooming out a lot, but it's still a pretty good sensor for sure, I haven't really had too many complaints with this specific lens. Now we do have things like time-lapse, slow-mo, video, photo, portrait, and pano. No, 4K at 60 on the front like I mentioned, but it's still good enough. Neither of these phones have the coolest features like cinematic mode or anything like that, but it's still very, very good lenses on both. And I think the XS camera is still really, really good for sure. Now something like the iPhone 11 Pro, on the other hand, this is definitely a beefy camera. This is a really, really good camera setup in 2022. This thing has a ton of capability built in, but not only that, this thing has the ability of not only zooming in as much as the XS, probably even more, but it has the ability of zooming out into a photo too. This zooming out effect like this, you can't really see it too well here, but this effect is really popular. It's been popular since it came out on these iPhones and Androids, and people love it. I love this type of feature. Unfortunately, the XS does not have this type of capability, but the iPhone 11 Pro does have this type of feature, which is so nice. And with the 11 Pro's 4K at 60 on the front, 4K at 60 on the back, really cool features, and I think this is still a very solid phone when it comes down to it. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, and to be honest, I definitely do think the iPhone 11 Pro is worth the money, and I think it's definitely a really good phone when it comes down to it. I think something like the iPhone XS is a very solid option as well, but I don't know, I think the 11 Pro is definitely worth the money. You're getting better battery life, you're getting potentially better performance, but they both were kind of the same. Longer lasting phone here and better camera setup, and this is by all means a way better phone for sure. I think the iPhone XS is still a very solid option though. It's not a bad phone by any means, and I'm actually still in love with this phone too. I like the build quality, it's still pretty good. I like the performance and I like the longevity. This is a great phone if you're willing to kind of sacrifice a little bit of battery life and to miss that ultra wide sensor and less camera performance. But other than that, if you have this iPhone, I would recommend keeping it. I wouldn't go from a XS to an 11 Pro per se. I would go from a XS to like a 13 Pro or to an iPhone 13. Those will be better options. That's kind of how I see both these phones in 2022. If you have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.